Hello, I'm Renee. Raw. Thank you for joining me. I hope you are drifting off to sleep. I'm going to just read from a book called 3 Feet from Gold. Planting Seeds. Rapid knocking woke Greg from a sound sleep. The next morning, he had been dreaming about Mia, imagining that she hadn't left him, that she would be lying next to him in the morning. She wasn't. Throwing on a robe, he stumbled through his empty apartment to the front door. Frank, the smiling doorman, greeted him. "This came for you," he said, holding out a package. When Greg reached for it, the doorman snuck a peek into the nearly empty room. He saw a few lawn chairs arranged around a small card table that Greg had borrowed from the building's recreation center. The space looked cold and uninviting, even depressing, far from swank decoration of overpriced furnishings that had been there just a week earlier. "Thanks," the tenant snapped as he grabbed the package and turned inside. Intuitively, the doorman pulled his head back just in time to move his nose away from the slamming door. There was no tip forthcoming. On the other side of the door, Greg stopped himself. Normally, he wouldn't have given a second thought to his actions, but today something was different. He opened the door and called down the hallway. "Sorry about that, Frank. I have a lot on my mind, but that's no excuse." Frank turned, surprised. Greg said, "I appreciate your bringing this up." "You're quite welcome." Frank had regained his smile. "You're quite welcome." He tipped his cap and disappeared out of sight around a corner. Tearing off the shipping paper, Greg was startled to discover a small notepad like the one Buckland had used for his reminders, along with a copy of the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. The book that Buckland had shown him the day before. Inside the front cover, there was an airline itinerary and a short note. "Challenge: use this ticket, meet with my good friend, Don, and apply what he shares with you. Many receive good advice, yet few profit from it. Will you?" Greg thought about that. Few profit from it. What could that possibly be the downside? He asked himself. Reading on, he found the information Buckland had provided about his friend Don Green. Right away, he recognized that an incredible opportunity was knocking on his door. Immediately, he called his office, cleared his schedule, which didn't take long, and packed a bag. He couldn't believe Jonathan Buckland had actually sent him an airline ticket to visit a colleague after just meeting him once. This was one gift he wanted to be sure he appreciated. Just as he reached his door to leave for the airport, his telephone rang. The rarely used home phone, not his cell phone. With a sigh, he returned to answer it. "Hello," he said. "Greg, it's David." Those 3 words conjured up in Greg's mind a lifetime of memories, many of them wonderful images of family, youth, and friendship, but others more recent memories of pain, disappointment, heartache, and even disgust. He wanted to hang up the phone and leave, pretending he had not even answered it, but he knew he could not. Holding the receiver to his ear, he did not respond at first. "It's David," the caller repeated, somewhat aggressively. "Hi, Dave. You're catching me at a bad time. I'm running out to the airport." "You got a big deal going, brother?" "Kind of. More on the research and development end of things right now." David Engel was not really Greg's brother, but he was the nearest thing. As a 3-year-old, David had been orphaned when his father and mother, close friends to Greg's own parents, had been killed in a horrific auto accident. And the family took Dave into their home and eventually adopted him. Greg and Dave Engel were less than a year apart and had been friendly rivals for their entire lives. Friendly, that is, until the past few years, when they had begun to drift apart, mostly over David's drinking. However, well, aren't we on the cutting edge? Well, aren't we on the cutting edge? Well, thinking outside the box, my buddy, most likely to succeed and all that crap. David spat, sarcastically slurring the word success. "Have you been drinking?" Greg hated asking that question and hated himself for asking it. But he had to. It was right there in front of his face, and he was angry. How dare this guy insert his problems and his failures into Greg's life, brother or not? And he was not, after all. So what if I can afford it. I may not be rich like you, but if I want to drink, what is to stop me? I know I can't stop you, Dave. Maybe I don't even want to, but I can't end this conversation. It's going nowhere fast. Goodbye. Wait, I wanted to. Greg slammed down the phone and rushed out the door. He forced back the tears of rage that welled up behind his eyes. He was not let a pitiful drunk ruin his day or his life. After a 5-hour flight, Greg found himself in the most majestic landscape he'd ever seen. slight insecurity tinged his sense of wonder as he pulled up to the headquarters of the Napoleon Hill Foundation, the organization that protects and promotes the wisdom of Napoleon Hill, the author of the book Think and Grow Rich. He had skimmed through the book on the flight over, and he was anxious to learn more. Being a bit nervous and hoping not to duplicate his first encounter with a great leader, he was quickly set to ease by Don Green's friendly smile and relaxed demeanor. "Hello, Greg. My name is Don, and I bet you're wondering why you traveled all this way to Wise, Virginia, to meet a complete stranger." "Well, not really a stranger," Greg said. "After Mr. Buckland's introduction and my own research, I have to admit I was pretty eager to meet you." He was also told me about Charlie Tremendous Jones and the importance of the books you read and people you meet. From his new mentor's note and subsequent internet searches, Greg had learned that Don Green became a bank president at a relatively early age, went on to become a successful business executive with his own companies, and was the person who gave back generously to his community. He had received many honors along the way, such as an award for being a Citizen Volunteer of the Year, and he had served on the boards of both his local PBS station and the University of Virginia. More importantly, he was the CEO of the Napoleon Hill Foundation, and in that coveted position was the person in charge of overseeing the entire operation. Charlie's advice is very good, and I'm sure Bucky was very kind with the information he provided you about me. One thing is that for certain, I have read a lot of books and met a lot of people. I have studied the principles of success for almost 45 years. I have always been interested in learning what makes people successful in their fields. That is what the foundation is all about. Greg noticed that Greg was not bashful about the praise Buckland had given him. He was friendly and humble, but not discouragingly modest. Don mentioned to a chair, "Go ahead and have a seat." As they both sat and host continued, "You must have impressed the old man for him to send you all this way. I assume you are on a quest for success." I think he knew I needed a lot of help. I definitely wanted to be successful, but I just didn't want to seem to be getting anywhere. Don was thoughtful for a moment before he responded. "I'd like to share with you one of the main reasons, and maybe the most important one, why only 5% of the people attain success and the rest fail to reach their potential. That would be great because I want to become a millionaire." "Well, Greg, you might wake up one day and discover that in fact you've accumulated $1 million, yet in reality you still may not have achieved success." Greg looked at his host, somewhat bewildered. As writer Dan Ben Sweetland stated years ago, success is not a journey and not a destination. Success is a way of life that you will continue as long as you live. It's about discovering your ultimate purpose and pursuing it with everything you have and everything you do. Don Green stated with great conviction, the reason I help run the Napoleon Hill Foundation is because I want to help people discover their ultimate purpose. But the lesson I am talking about and want to share with you today is about never giving up, about having the courage not to quit, even when you feel you have no other choice. Greg found himself physically pushing his body back in the chair of the reaction that was so powerful. Grain noticed the young man squirming. I see you have read Think and Grow Rich in your hand. Let me tell you about the history of that book. It was first published in 1937 and has sold many millions of copies around the world. It has more life-changing lessons in it than any other book I've ever read. The lesson of never giving up is one of the most important. I think you'll like this book, Greg, and it may even help you find some answers, or even better, inspire you to ask new questions. In the first chapter, Hill tells the story of R.U. Darby, who learned a very costly lesson that changed him for the rest of his life. Darby did want many people. He would quit when he felt overtaken by temporary defeat. Napoleon Hill knew that every one of us is guilty of this mistake at one time or another. Craig vaguely remembered something about the story from the brief book. Now he pulled from his notepad upward and wrote in his notepad, the most common cause of failure is quitting. That was from 3 Feet from Gold. I do not own the rights to this intellectual property. It is owned by Sharon Letcher and Dr. Greg Reed with the Napoleon Hill Foundation.